What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing an update to the fish deck profile. This has been requested quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. For you guys who didn't know, there were a bunch of new shark cards and or water support in the new Brothers of Legend set. It really gives the deck a significant boost, and I think it's really starting to catch on a little bit because you're seeing price spikes on certain things like Be Tuneful Princess and other sort of assorted fish cards, even the Crooked Cook, which is sort of a meme card, but it does have its applications within the deck. And people commented on the previous video I posted a few weeks back, can we get an update? When do we get an update? I've been trying to sort of lab this out a little bit, kind of play test, see what works best, and I have to be upfront right away. Not super 100% sold on this iteration of the build. I do think there may be more changes to come, but I'm going to give you guys a look at what I have and hope that maybe people will expand upon it, put their own twists on it, make it work in different ways, the usual. So we're going to jump into the video. If you do enjoy the content, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of the deck, what you'd do differently. The interaction really does help. We have seen a ton of growth over the past couple weeks. That misprint box for Brothers of Legend was a blessing in disguise in more than one way. It did bring a lot of eyes to the channel, so if you're new, I really appreciate you. We post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as well as breaking news releases and all of that. So subscribe if you haven't, and hopefully it'll be worth your while. But let's jump into the video, and starting us off, we're sticking with 3 copies of Tenyi Spirit Shithana. This is one of the tougher decisions that I made in terms of the final build, because I think being a worm, it does sort of negatively clash with some of your direct support cards. Xyz Remora can't revive it, White Mirror can't revive it, but it's still pretty much the best extender that you have to really start off with. It doesn't have the restriction that Silent Angler does, where it locks you out of hand for the rest of the turn, and at worst, at least it has that 2000 defense, where it's not the easiest thing to run over. In a deck that's super susceptible to bricking and hand traps, having something is better than nothing, in my opinion. Now, triple copies of Xyz Remora. This is still an insane card. The White Mirror spell makes it even better than it was before, so obviously this is really one of the key components of your strategy and making it work. Card is insanely good and is just almost never really a bad card to see, as long as you can open this with some type of combo or extension, and that's pretty much par for the course. Triple copies of Be Tuneful Princess, just a lone Fire Blossom that can dodge certain things like Imperm and Ash. Not Ash, sorry, Imperm and Valor. It can't dodge Ash, but it does have that ability to sort of get around those things, and you can kind of, even in some cases, chain block with it pretty easily, but usually it is not necessary. This is a really, really good card that you want to see as soon as possible, and you can even combo this deck with the new Piri Reyes map, which I made a video about. I'm not playing it in this iteration of the build because I had to make some tough cuts, and I do think it's good, but I didn't ultimately decide that it was worth it here. But it does have synergy with Tuna, and you could use it for that purpose. Now, triple copies of Silent Angler. This is still here. This is basically just another really good extender. If you control the water, special it from your hand, then you're locked out of hand summoning for the rest of the turn. So you do have to plan your turns out accordingly in order to be able to get the most out of your other cards, but it is a really solid option and just one of the better water extenders. Triple copies of Buzzsaw Shark. The card is still nutty. Being able to pull something from the deck, it's a 1-card Xyz in its own right, and if you open this with Xyz Remora and your opponent doesn't block it with, an Ash or something, you're pretty much set to go off and set up a really strong board. 2 copies of Lantern Shark. This card is really good too, but I think 2 copies is okay. We don't really need anything more than that. It does dead draw on occasion, and 2 is usually good enough because you have ways of getting to it. 1 Right Hand Shark. This is one of the new cards. This guy can revive himself from grave if you control no monsters. Also, if it's used as Xyz material, the monster that's made using it can't be destroyed by battle. So that's where the Crooked Cook combos come into play. But there are also some other interactions you can do that I'll talk about in a minute. And 1 Silent Sea Nettle. I really like this card because it is another extender, but what I don't love about it is that it locks you into water. So you do play a lot of water monsters, and that's great, but you're not able to make things like Zeus and Utopic Draco, which is a key element of like some of the early turn boards. Being able to do that is great. If you can't do it with this, it does sort of hinder you. But what ultimately made me decide to play one of this is that secondary effect is really solid. Banishing it from grave, target up to 3 waters and shuffle them back into the deck. That allows you to reuse certain cards like Toad, Bahamut, whatever, going into games a little bit later. So having access to just a copy of this for that purpose and for an extender, if you do, feel confident enough in the fact that a board of, a couple Toads, no Draco, would be able to help, it's definitely a useful tool. I've seen some builds playing 3. Desires or not, I don't want to play 3 of this because it's still a hard once per turn on the summon, and it still can lead to some tough scenarios that are hard to play your way out of. Now, for the hand traps, triple Ash. I think just still the best hand trap in the format right now. Triple copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is really strong against a lot of the meta that I play against locally. It's still a really good card, and something, you know, it's... If you were to feel that you could play something like Ogre or Gamma more effectively, then perhaps, you know, go ahead and do that. Although I would argue Gamma doesn't really work super well in this deck. But that is, you know, a pretty standard lineup, and I haven't changed much about that from the previous build. And then 2 copies of Ghost Bell. I play in a very Tri-Brigade heavy, Drytron heavy locals, so being able to have access to this, you know, is really crucial. Nibiru is another option that you can play. I don't think it's necessarily the best option, but it is one that you have. So that's the entire monster lineup, and it's really something that I'm pretty confident with. Like I said, with the exception of the Tenyi Spirit, I do think that that is, you know, if there was a way to replace this with something else, you could. I think Ready Fusion is really good. The reason I don't love it is because a Buzzsaw does lock you into Xyz, so it does have to do with, like, you know, you get Ready Fusion, you play it, it's kind of tricky, but it does have its ups and downs. I just think that playing the extra extenders does a similar job, and you don't have to dedicate the extra deck space to it. I don't love the idea of playing 3 Ready Fusion or 2 Ready 1 instant and then just the 1 rare fish, because you're basically asking for extra bricky cards later in the game if you don't have ways to put those back. But I get that some people like it, and I'm not downplaying the card. I think for sure it has a place in the deck, and you probably could get away with playing it and cutting some of the other stuff. So just acknowledgement on that part. Triple Desire is still the best draw power option you have because of how much you play 3-ofs. There's just, you know, it's the best one there. White Mirror, this is one of the new cards. Now, this is just insane for those of you who are not familiar with it. I'll read its effect quickly. Target 1 level 4 or lower fish monster in your graveyard, special summon it, then you can add 1 monster from your deck to your hand with the same original name as that monster. Now, the best play with this is obviously to revive Xyz Remora, search another, and go off with your combos, but you can still use this to bring back a Buzzsaw and get a search. You can use it to bring back a Lantern and get a free special from hand. There are different combos you can pull off with this that makes it so it's a really useful option to have, and with that in mind, it's too good not to maximize in the deck. That is a huge piece of support. Foolish Burial as a one-of. This card is really good if you see it early on with Right-Hand Shark, but it does combo with the Mirror in certain capacity to basically pay for itself because you get that search off of Mirror's summon. Instant Fusion, I am still playing the 1 Instant Fusion with the Mud Dragon. Like I said, I don't like the 3-to-1 ratio, but this is a 1-for-1 trade-off. Basically, this just acts as another extender. So it's sort of going against what I said earlier a little bit, but I think it's still worth playing. Called by the Grave as a one-of. Just to quickly address this, I was actually not playing this for a bit, and ultimately really what it came down to is just Call by the Grave is really crucial, especially in a combo deck like this, to be able to get over those problem cards that you're facing. And the thing is there's just not a lot of things that do what it does as well as it does it. Obviously, Crossout Designator does, but you know, it's a little pricey, and I still think the card itself is not amazing in our metagame currently. And then 1 Monster Reborn, just another extender card that can help to bring things back. And for the traps, 3 Infinite Impermanence, pretty straightforward here. This deck is very combo-oriented, but it's also able to do a lot with a little. So maximizing on hand traps, playing other things like the Bell, like the Veilers and Ash, it gives you the ability to make a powerful board with only a few cards and then sort of focus on controlling and preserving that board in future turns. That's exactly 40. I'm really happy with the ratios overall. Let's just jump into the extra deck here. So for the rank 4s, I did put Shark back in because of Silent Sea Nettle, and just generally, like with the amount of extenders you have, it does at least give you a few more options and, you know, comeback plays. Shark is really not a terrible card either. Like, you take your opponent's monster, then you can attack and overlay into a Zeus or something. It has its uses being non-destruction removal. Abyss Dweller is still really good against a lot of the meta. That's always going to be the case if you can fit that card in there. 2 copies of Bahamut and triple copies of Toad. Pretty standard, I think. You can go 3 and 3. Space-wise, I'm not there, but that's what we're working with on that. We've got number 59, Crooked Cook. This is definitely a meme card, but it does work pretty well. If you control no other cards on the field, it's unaffected by card effects, and once per turn in quick effect, you can detach a material, destroy all other cards you control. He gets 300 attack for each. I don't think that effect comes up all that often, but what you can do is make this with Right-Hand Shark, so he's basically unoutable except by like a Kaiju, because he can't be destroyed by battle. And so it's really like a Mystic Mine-esque play in the sense that, like, you can just kind of sit on it and stall until you get what you need. It's obviously not as impactful as mind, but it does give the deck a pseudo stall option that does really help to buy some time if you brick. Number 4, Stealth Crag, and this is one of the new monsters we talked about at length in a video last week. This turns all monsters into water. It has free disruption by popping monsters your opponent controls, and when it dies, you replace it with a Silent Scene. I don't think it's Stealth Crag and Spawn. Another really cool card. We got the full foil bleed one on that. Looks awesome. Stealth Crag and Spawn basically does the same thing, except it doesn't change everything to water. It's still cute, but when it dies, it brings the Kraken back. So you've got a bit of a extension chain going on that does at least put some pressure on the opponent. But this card is really good, especially with Xyz Remora, because it doesn't need materials to use its effects. So if you detach all the materials, you can still play a disruption control game with this, and that is a really good option for the deck to have. 1 Mud Dragon, as mentioned, just a really, it's an instant fusion target, but also while it's on the field, your water monsters can't be targeted. So if you set up your plays, in the right way, you make this and then you summon Buzzsaw or something, your opponent can't like Veiler or Imperm that Buzzsaw. It does reduce the amount of options. Obviously, they can still Ash Blossom it, but it reduces the amount of options that they have to stop your plays, so that's always good. And then Utopic Draco and F-Zero, pretty standard stuff here. Drill Driver and Zeus. That rounds us out at 15. So that's the updated build with the new cards. Like I said, it's definitely not like a final build. I wouldn't take this to a YCS at the moment. I want to play test with it more. People had been asking me to put up an updated video with what I have so far, and that is basically where we're at. So to address one other quick question I'm sure is going to come up, I think Left Hand Shark is a fine card in certain decks, but not in here. Being a level 3, it directly clashes with a lot of what you're looking to do, and unfortunately it just didn't work out for me in most circumstances. I do think it's something you could explore, maybe playing in some other approach to the deck, but I'm really just looking to control the board, be able to disrupt stuff, and play a more control matchup with the opponent. So that is why Left Hand Shark has not been put in this deck. And I mentioned Silent Sea Nettle earlier not being something I'm maxing out, because locking you into water is definitely not going to be something you want to have to face multiple times. Every once in a while, it's not the end of the world, but if you're relying on that as a consistent combo extender, you're going to find yourself in a tough spot, in my opinion. So that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. This Wednesday, we're going to do a follow-up to this video, a combo and hand tutorial section of this video. So this is really part 1 of it's going to be a 2-part video, but this is going to be posted separately. So Wednesday, our next video, we're going to do some test hands and just showcase what's there. People have asked for it. I'm going to put that out there and sort of show like what types of combos we can do and pull off with the new stuff, how the boards will look, and all of that. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.